Clara sat silently in the back of the rumbling wagon, her heart weighed down by despair. The sky stretched wide above her, a mix of vibrant blues and soft whites. Yet even the beauty of the West could not lift the shadow that loomed over her life. Just months before, she had been a beloved wife, navigating the quiet moments with memories of laughter and warmth. Now she was a widow thrust into this harsh new existence along the old Spanish trail. The wagon train rolled onward from dawn until dusk, an endless procession of canvas-covered carts and tired horses. Clara's companions were a mix of excited settlers and weary travelers, all pushing toward a new life in search of fortune and freedom. However, as days turned into weeks, Clara found it more difficult to keep pace with their enthusiasm. The isolation was profound as whispers grew around her, murmurs of her sorrowful past that echoed just beneath the surface. Her grief manifested itself like a fever within her, sleepless nights bringing restless days and thoughts dark as storm clouds. She was often lost in reminiscence about the life she once cherished, picnics under blooming cherry trees and soft-spoken words exchanged by candlelight. Each memory tugged at her heart, pulling her deeper into loneliness while the unforgiving trail pushed forward relentlessly. As they traveled through dust-swirled meadows and over jagged rocks, Clara began to notice other travelers falling ill from an unknown affliction. It wasn't long before fever swept through their ranks like wildfire. Families banded together more tightly than ever before, but it also caused an undercurrent of fear to ripple through their midst. Perhaps it was due to the harsh journey or maybe divine wrath, whatever it was led to whispers beginning to point their fingers at Clara. Then came the day when misery struck its deepest blow. A severe wave of fever enveloped Clara as she lay against worn luggage within the camaraderie of fellow travelers. Muffled voices surrounded her as if they were discussing submarine secrets. She drifted in and out of consciousness amidst their shared worries for one another's well-being while simultaneously growing distant from them. In a cruel twist of fate, when Clara slipped further into illness, voices overpowered fellowship even among those who might care, eventually decided that it would be best to leave her behind rather than risk the spread of fever within their ranks. Heartbroken and abandoned as dusk fell like a shroud around her weary spirit, Clara became just another shadow along this desolate stretch of trail. But fate had other plans for Clara. As she lay vulnerable beneath the silhouette of a rising sun too powerful to ignore, rescue would soon arrive from an unexpected source. The formidable presence of Scout Kele could change everything in ways she never thought possible. As the wagon train continued its arduous journey along the old Spanish trail, the air grew thick with worry and dread. It began with one traveler, a young mother who had succumbed to a bout of fever. Clara watched helplessly as whispers spread through the train like wildfire, each hushed conversation tightening the knot of fear in her stomach. Soon after, another traveler fell ill, and just like that, the atmosphere shifted from hopeful adventure to a suffocating cloud of anxiety. Clara felt the weight of their glances, each one heavy with unspoken judgment. She could sense the unkind rumors swirling around her. She was too close to sickness, too vulnerable to remain among them. As she struggled through the days, her own health faltered under the strain of despair. The fever gripped her tightly and she became a shadow of herself, strength faded as illness took its toll. One night, as Clara lay shivering under a thin blanket in the back of the wagon, she overheard earnest voices discussing their predicament. "We can't risk it," one man insisted. "If we keep her with us, we might all fall ill." Clara's heart sank further at the realization that she was seen as a threat rather than a person in need. She turned away from their words, trying to ignore the knot forming in her throat. The next morning dawned gray and foreboding as clouds hung low over the landscape. As Clara struggled to sit up, her body felt heavy and unyielding. A chill crept into her bones while fellow travelers packed their belongings hurriedly for another day on the trail. She wanted to call out for help but found herself struck mute by fear and shame. Her eyes scanned the crowd for familiar faces but found only indifference. As they gathered for morning prayers, Clara noticed how they huddled together in tight circles, families clinging to one another like lifeboats amidst a turbulent sea. It was then that the captain stepped forward with a grim face. "We have to make a hard decision," he announced somberly. "We cannot carry anyone who is sick." He paused as disbelief rippled through those gathered around him before continuing, "Clara is our biggest risk right now." The wound cut deeper than any blade could manage. When his words dropped like stones into water, they rippled outward and created distance between Clara and those she had once known. In that moment, alone among them yet further than ever before, she felt tears slide down her cheeks as they decided to leave her behind when they pressed on later that day. The sun dipped lower in the sky as dusk approached, a vibrant orange hue beginning to cloak both her surroundings and spirit in shadows. With every click of hooves on earth moving farther away from her pleas for companionship and care, Clara felt abandoned not just physically but emotionally too. As silence enveloped her after their departure, it was easy to surrender to despair once more. However, fate would soon reveal an unexpected twist in her story, a glimmer of hope arriving in an unanticipated form. Scout Kele's presence would forge a new path ahead for Clara amidst these dark times. As twilight settled on the horizon, casting long shadows across the rugged terrain, a lone figure moved with purpose across the mesas. Kele, a Navajo scout, had been patrolling these lands, skilled in reading the trails and signs of both nature and man. He was well acquainted with the whispers of the earth, the rustle of leaves, the call of distant birds, and the rustling of herds grazing in the fading light. Yet, this evening felt different. A heaviness lingered in the air as if it too sensed something amiss. Kele's keen sense of observation led him to a trail he hadn't planned on exploring that day. He had heard rumors from other travelers about a wagon train that had passed through not long ago, and curiosity piqued his interest. As he approached a bend in the path, he spotted an abandoned wagon partially hidden by brush and dust. His heart quickened, something compelled him to investigate further. When he reached the wagon, his breath caught in his throat. There, lying weakly against the worn fabric of a blanket, was Clara. Her once bright eyes were now closed, and her face was pale with fever. Kele could see that she was fever-struck and in great distress. Despite his initial hesitation, after all, mingling with whites often brought complicated situations, his compassion surged. The vulnerability before him tugged at something deep inside. Kele dropped to one knee beside her and gently touched Clara's forehead. It was burning hot to the touch, radiating heat that raised concern in his heart. He murmured softly to her, hoping to rouse her from her feverish dreams. The moment felt fragile, like a delicate flower swaying in a summer breeze. "You are not alone," he whispered, even though he feared she might not be able to hear him. As Clara stirred slightly and opened her eyes, confusion washed over her face before giving way to relief mixed with fear. Kele saw the flicker of recognition when she realized he was not one of the wagon train members who abandoned her but rather a stranger offering help. Yet even in her dazed state, she grasped her situation with a sense of dread. "Please," she croaked weakly. "Help me." His heart ached at her plea. Kele grappled with uncertainty. Could he carry this woman away from danger? What if his people or others found them? But he realized that what mattered most was her well-being. Without further hesitation, he scooped Clara into his arms, feeling the weight of her frail body against his chest. "Hold on," he urged as he began to navigate through the craggy paths leading away from danger. The journey would be difficult, but Kele was determined to reach safety for both their sakes. With each step he took across the mesas under the twinkling stars above, Kele felt a bond forming, a connection between two worlds that had not yet begun to understand each other but were now intertwined by fate. With Clara cradled in his arms, Kele shifted his weight and set off across the red mesas. The sun dipped lower in the sky, casting it in hues of orange and pink that painted the rugged landscape around them. Each step he took was deliberate, careful to avoid jagged rocks and uneven ground, as Clara's quiet breaths reminded him of her fragility. While carrying her, Kele's thoughts raced. He knew the dangers they faced together, not just from the terrain but also from the distance that separated him from his own community and the uncertainty regarding how other travelers might react to seeing a Navajo man with a fever-stricken white woman. Yet every instinct within him cried out to protect her. There was a purity in her vulnerability that touched something deep inside him, a whisper of kinship shared through their fight for survival against circumstance. As they traversed a small incline, Kele began to notice the faint rise and fall of Clara's chest under the blanket he had wrapped around her more tightly. He dared glance down at her face, which remained pale yet peacefully tranquil, as if she found solace in his embrace. In that moment, he felt an unfamiliar connection blooming, a bond formed not only out of necessity but also from mutual courage. "Stay strong," he muttered softly, as if hoping his voice would weave strength into her feeble body. Hours passed as they continued onward. Kele kept up both his pace and spirits, even humming soft Navajo melodies to ease the tension enveloping them. The wind picked up, stirring sand and dust around their legs like an ancient rite celebrating their resilience. Suddenly, Clara awoke slightly, her eyelids fluttering open after what seemed like an eternity. Confusion mixed with realization flickered across her features as she took in her surroundings, vast expanses of red earth marked by bold cliffs and scattered shrubs. When she turned her head and focused on Kele's determined face, something flickered between them, an understanding forged in resilience. Where are you taking me?" she croaked, still grappling with fatigue. "To my home," Kele replied gently but firmly. "The elders will help you." Clara nodded slowly as if trying to comprehend this unexpected kindness. "Thank you," she whispered before surrendering back to sleep as exhaustion washed over her again. With each mile they crossed under the canvas of stars emerging overhead, Kele felt a warmth spreading in his chest, a spark of hope ignited not just for Clara's sake but for the possibility of bridging their worlds together. Together they ventured deeper into sacred grounds where healing awaited, a future forged through compassion amid diversity awaited them at journey's end, a place where two souls intertwined by fate could find solace and renewal on this shared path ahead. As they approached the Navajo hogan, the structure loomed invitingly against the backdrop of the dusky sky. Built from natural materials, its circular shape seemed to meld with the surrounding landscape, a testament to the harmonious relationship between the Navajo people and their environment. Kele gently laid Clara on a woven mat inside, where the earthy scent of cedar and juniper welcomed them, calming yet invigorating. The interior of the hogan was dimly lit with a small fire crackling in the center. The walls were adorned with vibrant woven rugs, depicting stories of nature and heritage that echoed the wisdom of generations. Clara blinked slowly, taking in her unfamiliar surroundings while trying to understand where she was. Each detail felt foreign yet oddly comforting. The elders arrived shortly after, their presence commanding respect and reverence within the space. They were devoted practitioners of healing arts, and their wrinkled faces held expressions of compassion paired with wisdom earned over many years. They exchanged knowing glances as Kele explained Clara's condition, speaking softly, his tone imbued with urgency as he sought their guidance. One elder reached for a bundle of juniper branches intricately tied together. She began to gently crush the leaves between her fingers, releasing a refreshing aroma into the air, a fragrant offering intended to purify and heal. The others gathered around Clara, preparing various herbs and soothing balms while murmuring prayers that fluttered like wings around her. Kele watched in awe as they undertook their rituals with an unhurried grace that felt entirely grounded in tradition. The elder took a small clay bowl filled with water from a nearby wellspring. She nestled it near the fire until it warmed. As she steeped different herbs within it, each chosen for its specific health benefits, the steam floated upwards, filling the space with hope and vitality. "Close your eyes," one elder instructed Clara tenderly. "Breathe deeply." Clara inhaled slowly, allowing the warm sense of juniper and herbal steam to envelop her while easing some of her unease. She felt cradled by an ancient rhythm that activated something deep within her spirit. As they chanted soft incantations, Kele joined them beside Clara's side. A warmth surrounded him too, a sense of belonging in the sacred gathering focused on healing. He pressed his palm gently on her forehead once more to bring additional comfort amid whispered prayers filled with intent for recovery. Time became fluid within these walls, moments passing like ripples across water, with patience guiding everything around them. When Clara opened her eyes again after some time had passed, the fever still present but eased slightly, she found strength blossoming there too. It was amid this communal experience encompassed in care that allowed newfound connections to form, not just between people but also with land and traditions transcending them both. With each rhythmic chant echoing through the hogan and mingling with laughter from outside echoing across open plains, Clara understood. Healing blossomed here not only through remedies but also through shared spirit. A bond that would alter not just her future but Kele's world too. Together they stepped toward healing, heartened by kinship woven through culture and compassion as dusk settled peacefully into night beyond those protective walls. As Clara regained her strength within the protective walls of the hogan, Kele remained by her side, his presence a constant reminder of the bond they had formed. The days passed slowly, filled with healing rituals, shared meals, and deep conversations that drew them closer together. Clara learned more about Kele's life as a scout and the rich traditions of his people while he listened intently to her stories of loss and resilience. Their conversations flowed easily, bridging the gap between their worlds. In Navajo culture, there exists a beautiful practice known as handfast union, a commitment that transcends mere marriage and embodies deep respect and understanding between two individuals. It is a celebration of connection and partnership, often marked by shared experiences and mutual support rather than extravagant ceremonies. Kele spoke to Clara about this tradition one evening as they sat outside the hogan, watching the stars twinkle above them like ancient spirits guiding their paths. Handfast union is not just about being together, Kele explained. It is about honoring each other's journeys, recognizing the strengths we bring into this world together. He looked into Clara's eyes, his voice steady yet soft. It signifies our choice to walk alongside one another, supporting each other through all challenges. Clara felt warmth blossom in her heart as she absorbed his words. The idea resonated deeply with her. After feeling abandoned by those she once trusted, here was Kele, offering her not just safety but a partnership built on empathy and shared burdens. In the following days, as Clara continued to heal physically from her fever, she realized that her emotional wounds were beginning to mend as well. She found solace in Kele's unwavering presence. They would often sit under the vast sky during twilight hours when the sun dipped below the horizon. With every story they exchanged and every moment spent together, the laughter mingling with gentle breezes, they nurtured an invisible thread that bound their hearts. Kele proposed a handfast union one evening under a canopy of stars shimmering above them. "Let us create our own bond," he said earnestly, "a commitment to support each other in this life, even if it's different from what either of us expected." Tears glistened in Clara's eyes as she nodded in agreement. This was not merely a promise, it was an acknowledgement of two souls choosing to navigate life together despite their differences. They tied a simple piece of fabric around their wrists as Kele recited a prayer honoring their union, a ritual steeped in love and respect for one another's cultures. In that moment beneath the vastness of night sky, Clara felt anchored for the first time since losing everything. She had found not only healing but also a sense of belonging nestled within Kele's heart. As they began this new chapter together, bridging two worlds, their handfast union became more than just tradition. It represented hope for both Clara and Kele, a promise to face whatever lay ahead side by side. As time passed within the nurturing embrace of the hogan, Clara and Kele found themselves immersed in a rich cultural exchange that began to shape their understanding of one another. They explored each other's backgrounds, learning not just about their individual pasts but also about the beliefs, traditions, and values that defined their lives. Clara shared stories of her life before becoming a widow. She spoke of her small hometown, painted vivid pictures of cherry blossoms in spring, and described the warmth of community gatherings beneath twinkling lights. Her laughter filled the space as she recalled baking pies with her mother and learning to dance at local festivals. Kele listened intently, his eyes reflecting both curiosity and admiration. In return, Kele revealed the stories of his people, the Navajo, rich with spirituality and connection to the earth. He talked about how they viewed life as a circle, where every action affected everything else, a belief that resonated deeply with Clara. He explained the significance of the changing woman, central to Navajo creation stories, who embodies growth and resilience. Clara felt inspired by this connection to nature and community. It shifted her perspective on her own struggles. One afternoon, Kele taught Clara how to weave a simple basket using natural fibers gathered from nearby plants. This is more than just making something useful, he explained with patience as he guided her hands through the motions. It's about creating beauty while honoring the materials given to us by our ancestors. Clara found herself mirroring his movements with increasing confidence, feeling a sense of accomplishment as she brought her creation to life. In turn, Clara introduced Kele to some cherished traditions from her past. She shared stories about planting gardens filled with vegetables and beautiful flowers, an activity that had connected her family over generations. They ventured outside together one sunny morning so she could show him how to plant seeds in neat rows, explaining how each sprout would signify growth and hope for the future. Their contrasting methods interwove in harmony. While Kele emphasized respecting nature's cycles through traditional practices, Clara infused joy into their task with music and laughter, turning it into an enjoyable experience rather than just hard work. As they exchanged knowledge, Kele teaching Clara about herbal remedies and healing practices while she illuminated him on Western ways of life, they created a unique bond built on appreciation for each other's heritage. Their conversations flowed like water from a stream, refreshing and invigorating as they navigated their differences. Through this cultural exchange came new layers of understanding, layers that enriched not only their personal relationship but also helped them grow as individuals. Together they were building a bridge between their worlds, two different cultures merging as they forged ahead hand in hand. In this journey toward mutual respect and appreciation lay the foundation for their handfast union. It wasn't merely a commitment, it was a celebration of their diverse backgrounds woven together into something beautiful, a testament that love knows no boundaries when nurtured by understanding. The air inside the hogan was thick with warmth and a sense of newfound peace, but outside, an unsettling tension brewed. The sun had set behind the mesas, casting long shadows that danced across the ground. Clara and Kele were deep in conversation when they heard the distant rumble of hooves and the creaking of wagon wheels approaching. Clara's heart dropped as she exchanged a worried glance with Kele. "Who could it be?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. Kele's expression hardened as he stepped outside to get a better view. He squinted into the twilight, recognizing the familiar silhouette of the wagon train captain leading a small group of men. The sight sent a rush of anxiety coursing through him. He knew their arrival meant trouble. Clara had been abandoned by this man once before, and now he was returning, likely determined to reclaim her. "Stay here," Kele instructed Clara firmly while holding her gaze, his voice low but commanding. He turned to face the door, readying himself as the captain and his men came into view, their expressions grim and resolute. The captain dismounted with an air of authority, his boots hitting the ground with a thud that echoed ominously against the earth. He adjusted his hat, casting a shadow over his eyes as he scanned the area before locking onto Kele, who stood protectively in front of the hogan. "I've come for Clara," the captain declared with an edge of arrogance in his tone. "She's one of ours, and you have no right to keep her." Kele's jaw clenched as he felt the weight of the captain's words settle heavily in the space between them. "Clara is where she belongs now," Kele replied evenly, standing tall despite the tension crackling in the air. "She is safe here." The captain scoffed, taking a step closer, attempting to assert his dominance. "Safe? You think this is safety? She belongs with her own kind, not hidden away in some hogan." His voice dripped with condescension, fueling Kele's anger. Clara listened from inside, her heart racing as fear and uncertainty flooded her thoughts. Memories of abandonment replayed in her mind, but alongside them was the sense of belonging she had found with Kele. She knew she had to act quickly before this confrontation escalated further. Peeking out from behind Kele, Clara stepped forward, her voice firm despite the tremor she felt within. "I am not going back," she declared, surprising both men with her resolve. "I have found healing here, a connection I never thought I would have again." The captain's expression shifted from anger to disbelief as he processed her words. "You're making a mistake, Clara. You'll regret this decision." But Kele interjected smoothly. "Then let us show her what true strength is, what love offers when two worlds entwine." He glanced at Clara, sending a reassuring smile her way. With every word exchanged and every glimmer of defiance shared between them, the tension escalated, creating a palpable barrier that neither man could easily cross. The captain's frustration simmered beneath the surface while Kele stood resolute, ready to defend what he had cultivated with Clara. As tensions rose and emotions flared, it became clear that this encounter would test not only their commitment to each other but also the very boundaries of cultural understanding and acceptance. The night was still young, yet both men understood that their clash would determine Clara's fate and perhaps redefine what belonging truly meant for her moving forward. The tension outside the hogan thickened like a storm cloud ready to burst. Kele stood resolute, his posture strong and unwavering as he faced the wagon captain who towered over him with an air of authority that demanded respect. The captain's eyes narrowed, reflecting a mix of anger and disbelief as he tried to assert his dominance. "Clara is coming with me," he proclaimed, voice booming across the desert as if echoing off the mesas. "She doesn't belong here, she's lost her way." Kele stepped forward, his heart racing but his determination firm. "You abandoned her when she needed you most," he replied, his voice steady and calm. "Clara has found safety and healing with me. She is not lost, she is home." The captain scoffed, dismissing Kele's words with a wave of his hand. "Home? In a hogan? You think this is where she belongs? She needs to be with her own kind." His tone dripped with condescension, aiming to undermine Kele's claim. But Kele stood his ground, fueled by a fierce protectiveness for Clara. "She belongs wherever she chooses," Kele shot back, his voice rising with passion. "What you see as weakness is strength. Clara has found connection and love here, something you were too quick to discard." The captain's face twisted in frustration and he took a step closer, eyes blazing with indignation. "Love? This is foolishness. You think this union will hold against the realities of the world? You're just a scout, you have no place in this battle." Kele's jaw clenched as he felt every word strike against him. But he refused to back down. Clara's presence beside him was a reminder of everything they had built together. "It's not just about me," he said firmly, glancing at Clara who stood behind him, her courage shining through despite the fear that flickered in her eyes. "This is about us, what we've chosen together." Clara's heart raced as she watched the confrontation unfold. She could sense Kele's unwavering resolve and felt empowered by his words. Stepping slightly forward, she added, "I've made my choice. I will not return with you." Her voice, though trembling slightly, was filled with determination. The captain seemed taken aback by her boldness, glancing between Clara and Kele as if weighing his options. He had always been in control, but now the dynamic shifted. Clara was not a pawn in his game anymore. "No one will accept this union," he warned ominously, desperation creeping into his tone. "You'll face backlash from both your people and mine." "Let them come," Kele replied firmly, a fire igniting in his chest. "Love transcends boundaries and defies expectations. We will endure." The air crackled with tension as they stood their ground. Three souls entangled in a confrontation that would shape their futures forever. Kele's fierce determination sparked something within Clara. It solidified her resolve to stand by him. As night deepened around them, it became clear that this clash was not merely about territory or authority, but about redefining what belonging truly meant for Clara and Kele. They were ready to confront whatever challenges lay ahead together, united against the forces that sought to tear them apart. As the night deepened, Clara stood alongside Kele, their hands linked as they faced the wagon captain and the uncertainty of the world outside the hogan. The air crackled with tension, but within her heart blossomed a fierce resolve that she had not felt in a long time. No longer was she the abandoned widow left to despair. Clara had found her strength amid adversity and her voice amid chaos. "Let him go," she said quietly to Kele, sensing his unease and the weight of his protective instincts. "This is my choice." Kele looked at her, his expression softening with admiration and understanding. "Are you certain?" he asked gently, wanting to ensure that she felt empowered in her decision. "I am," Clara replied firmly, her eyes shining with determination. She recognized that this moment was pivotal not only for her own future but for the union they had forged between their two worlds. She had always been a woman of resilience, but now she embraced that quality with newfound courage. Clara turned to face the captain, who stood there, brimming with disbelief and frustration. "You think you can just take me back?" she challenged, her voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through her veins. "I have chosen to stay with Kele." This is where I belong now. The captain's brow furrowed as he processed her words. He had always seen Clara as someone who needed protection and guidance, but here she was standing tall and asserting her will. His attempts to reclaim her felt weak against the strength of their bond. You don't understand what you're giving up, he warned, desperation creeping into his tone. I understand perfectly, Clara shot back. I'm giving up a life that saw me as expendable for one filled with love and respect. Her heart raced as she spoke, each word crystallizing her commitment to Kele and their shared path forward. Kele stepped closer to Clara, wrapping an arm around her shoulder in an unspoken promise of support. They stood united against the captain's demands, embodying a love that transcended differences and societal expectations. Clara felt a sense of peace wash over her. This was a journey she would embrace fully. With no more words left to say, the wagon captain looked between them, his authority crumbling in the face of their unwavering connection. Finally, he turned away, leaving them to embrace their choice without further interference. As the sounds of hoofbeats faded into the distance, Clara took a deep breath and looked up at Kele. Thank you for believing in me, she whispered, gratitude swelling in her chest. You've always had that strength within you, Kele replied softly, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. Now you can walk your own path. Clara smiled through tears of joy, feeling liberated by her decision. Together they turned toward their future, a future filled with promise and possibility, symbolizing resilience forged through love across cultures. With each step they took, it became clear that they were ready to face whatever challenges awaited them hand in hand, committed to building a life defined not by others but by their shared dreams and beliefs.